In this video, I'm going to give you a pro tip to help your silver metallic paint jobs be the best they can be.
Warning, Uncle Adam is not a professional. He's usually not even very good. Try any and all of Uncle Adam's pro tips at your own risk. Void where prohibited. Uncle Adam is not actually an uncle.
Metallic paints are, frankly, a little difficult to use at such small scales. Normal metallic paints, like you would see on a car, which is large, use little tiny flecks. I think a long time ago they might have used actual metal. Now they use something, from what I understand, called mica, which is a tiny little thing that causes the reflection and makes it look like it's metallic, which is, it's not really about metal. But at the small scale, when we're working with people who are only this big, it becomes a lot more difficult, and a lot of the paints just, in my opinion, don't work that great. Years ago, I was going to paint the Chaos Helldrake, otherwise sometimes known as the Hell Turkey, and a Chaos Forge Fiend pretty much back to back. I needed to get them done for an event, and so I decided it's time to attack. And if you've ever seen these models, they, like many things from Chaos, are covered in weird little kind of filigree trim. And I was looking at it like, how the heck am I going to paint all that? I knew I wanted to obviously make it a metallic trim, but I also knew that most metallic paints kind of sucked, frankly. They were either something that takes 2 to 3 coats, which in some situations totally makes sense, and I can get that. But also very frequently, you're in a situation where you do 2 to 3 coats and then everything looks kind of chunky, or you get the brush lines from the strokes and the bristles and all that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, it'd be great. This would be great. It'll take a super long time, but if I masked off all the little, extra inside bits and then just used a nice airbrush metallic and just went over the stuff, and then I had a thought. Why don't I just use airbrush metallic, but with like a regular hand brush with like bristles and whatnot? So I gave it a try, and it worked completely better than I had ever expected that it would. I used, and this is not an ad, Vallejo Model Metallic Air. Chrome was the color that I used on these two bad boys, if you will. And it went on incredibly smooth, no brush strokes. It covered in 1 coat, no second coat. And it was nice and bright and flat. And when I mean flat, I mean not bumpy or chunky, I mean smooth. But it still was a nice bright reflection because it was chrome. It's a bright color. It's not like a mirror, you can't see yourself in it, but it is an amazing color. The colors that have to be shot through an airbrush to get metallics have to be basically much more finely ground even than the normal stuff that we generally use. And I had never even thought of trying to use an airbrush paint with a regular brush to put silver on stuff specifically. And I've done it that way ever since. This question came up again recently because on Twitch, I've been painting the skeletons, the skeleton warriors from Cursed City. And I'm going predominantly all silver with all their metallics. There's not going to be gold or brass or bronze or anything like that. It's going to be all silver stuff. And I've been using this particular paint again, the Vallejo Model Metallic Air. In this case, I've been using a color called Steel, which is slightly darker, but it's almost imperceptible. And it just goes on. You just put it on with the brush in 1 stroke and you're done, and you don't have to touch it again. No second layer, no touch-ups for the most part, anything like that. And then you can throw wash over it after it dries or whatever. And people have been like, what is that paint you are using? And I'm like, and I tell them. So I thought I'd kind of tell you. Now, here's something that's interesting though. That same brand, I can't find a decent gold or copper or brass metallic airbrush color that works the same way the silvers do. And they make a bunch of different silvers, from silver to chrome to aluminum to steel. So they're all just they look a lot alike, but there are little tiny variations. Those all work spectacularly, but colors like gold, here's an example of just a piece of crap Space Marine I had laying around. And I did that shoulder pad in, I think it's called polished gold. From Vallejo not Model Air, Game Air actually. And you can still see the blue undercoat through it, and it doesn't look good. And then that port right there on his shoulder there, the exhaust port on the shoulder pad, that's done with one of the silvers. I forget exactly which one. Might be steel. And that's 1 coat done. And it's perfect. There's no colors coming through underneath, no brush strokes, no chunkiness, nothing. It works great. So I've found that In gold, right now, my favorite gold is not an airbrush color. It's actually rich gold from Proacryl from Monument. This is one of the reasons why it's a good idea to do two things. Number one, never stick to a single brand. Always kind of check around and check different things, because sometimes you'll have a brand that does spectacularly at one thing and something lousy. It's something that should be the same. Like the fact that the gold colors from Vallejo don't work anywhere near as the silver colors within the airbrush line is strange to me. But there it is. So think about that, definitely. But then also test. Use a crap model you got laying on your desk and say, well, cool, what if we try this? What if we take this airbrush paint and use it with bristles? What if we take a bristle paint and we kind of thin it down enough so I can fire it through my airbrush and see how that works? What if I turn something into a wash or a glaze? I mean, there's a lot of different options out there, but specifically these Vallejo colors, and there are 4 different lines within Vallejo. You have the model color, the game color. Model color is more for scale modeling. Game color is more for gaming and stuff like that, brighter colors and whatnot. There's a lot of olive drabs in the model color. And then there's an air version of both of those types. So it's the model metallic air colors that work really, really, really well in the silvers within Vallejo. So if you're ever wondering, gosh, I have a lot of swords that I have to paint. I have a lot of, non-brass, non-bronze, non-gold armor, which, honestly is a lot of armor is generally silver and not those other kind of softer metals. Well, not silver. It's actually probably steel or something like that, whatever. But if you want a good, nice, clean, smooth, one coat done, silver type color, and you want it in acrylics. There are lacquers out there that also work quite well in certain situations, but I'm talking about something that's water soluble, acrylic, easy to find in a lot of places. You want Vallejo, model metallic air, again, chrome, silver, steel, aluminum. They've got a bunch of different colors within that range who all frankly do kind of look a lot alike, but you will put those onto your models. You'll put them on one stroke, one coat, and you'll be done and happy.